After one of these, so here you go. Oh, second last. And okay, that was just to our dog. If you didn't notice, so I'm just gonna jump right into things. I have a bit of time this morning, but so let's just say this, right? We should all aim for ourselves and for each other to have definitely more good news than bad news. This point in time in my life, although things aren't absolutely terrible, a lot could be better, and I need to aim for as much good news as I can get. Um, I have, I guess both are a little bit mixed, iffy kind of news. Uh, Starting with I don't, and I want to end on a good note, and I don't know which one I feel more certain about, to be quite honest. Um, let's just say this. Basically, I have an appointment that is covered under our health plan. Just a moment. And no waters with anything other than this cold. Covered out of our health plan. And so I didn't want to have to pay for a cab because it's not that far. However, it's quite cool and it's potentially going to be raining today. Um, our transit system is going through changes. And in fact, um, I don't want to get too specific, but this has got to be the case in more than one place. In our area, there is a particular was before the revamp, and it, you know, people are full of complaints about it. I'm not actually these days much of a transit user anyway, um, kind of by choice. I mean, it's no offense to homeless people. You know, they gotta have shelter, and some would rather sleep in a bus shack than uh, than be in a crowded shelter, especially if they haven't been, homeless for very long. Okay, you've had something. You need to go lay down. Okay, sorry. Um, Anywho, um, but yeah. So basically, uh, and I feel mixed about being on a warm and crowded bus. A lot of them don't have air conditioning. In the winters here, they pretty much would have to have heat, I would think. But every now and then, I remember even just a few years ago, getting on a really old bus that probably should have been taken off the road. At the same time, and it's not like there's a shortage, and they certainly weren't accessible for people with disabilities very much. Um, but anywho, and it all adds up cost wise too, and that, and then I haven't honestly needed to that much, and then also, or I've had other ways to get to things, but also not a whole lot to get to either. And then also, um, yeah. So basically, so I didn't want a cab because that was going to take out the fact that my appointment was covered, and it's in walking distance. It's just the weather today, which the weather you never know. So I was going to wait till this morning. So, and they actually hadn't canceled my appointment yet. I know I sounded a little unsure whether I'd be able to do it, but I also was very clear that, and it may have been two different people that saw it because there was two different emails and there's two different desk ladies, but I was very clear that that the weather was the only reason I was a little unsure. I mean, if it's raining and windy, which it would be because it could be raining soon, that's not even great for using an umbrella anyway. And it's just, and my joints don't like the that kind of weather, blah blah. So, anywho, but I wouldn't have been able to get the appointment until the 10th, which I actually couldn't do, which comes in with the next piece of update. But I may not have been able to get it too much later unless somebody canceled, which maybe. And it is true that I am fairly flexible. But now I've pretty much this morning guaranteed that yes, I can. The other thing is that, why are you standing here? You're standing here quietly. He's looking at the bag with the other treat. Well, you already got one. You need that for later. Um, Maybe if I put it away, he won't think, oh, are you going to be fine to give that to me if I stand here nicely enough, long enough? You just had one, Sonny, so relax. Um, Anywho, um, so I called and it said that I found some, actually the perfect amount of coins. Okay, that worked. The perfect amount of coins in a little bowl that we have. Uh, Actually, no, that wasn't in. That was in a more of a cup thing. They mostly seem to be special coins, with special things on them, and that. But some of them either not that special, and a couple of them not really, you know, normal looking. Some of them even possibly American. Um, so, and everywhere must have a. I don't think that they import, But anyway, so basically, so I called and I said, okay, I got the coins I'll bus. Because I thought they might say, well, why couldn't you just bus with cab? So I told them why I didn't want to do either. And I also didn't know if I had coins. I didn't have a bus ticket. So, but then I found the coins, like I say, welcome. Glad to have you here. And if there's anything you'd like to chat about that, Anyway, so then, but hopefully they just see they don't know how to find it. Anyway, the one about the gig. But anyway, so basically, and I don't have a lot of living local family, and it is a weekday, and it is short notice anyway. But there was one I was thinking to call, but she does work from home. Kind of flexible, but she does work. Even though she's on disability, she's got her office, I think, upstairs, and she has to do the stairs anyway, I suppose. She probably stays upstairs most of her shift. Whether she otherwise needed to or not, because just to avoid doing the stairs so much. She's actually recovering very well from a back surgery. Anywho, so I called her. Now she is leaving for Nova Scotia, or I believe that's where, on Friday. So I thought, she's not going to want to ask for time off work. Her boss sounds really great, though. I'll tell you that much. She said that her boss's husband um, um, works in the States. We're in Canada, and I don't know. Actually, I don't actually know what this had to do with anything really. But she said that her and my step, and I don't think I don't know pool, but anyway, because they're old and not in great shape, But but anywho, sometimes go swimming there. Welcome, and so and they have drinks, and I didn't even think they were much into drinking. So so she sounds like a pretty fun, laid back kind of person. So hopefully it'll all work out, because this relative ended up saying, well, how about, you just plan to go there anyway, dress warmly. Well, I was kind of, you know, thinking of doing that anyway. Dress warmly if it's pouring rain doesn't really do much. And again, if it's wind and rain, um, you know, um, she says, I will try and I'll let you know by 10ish. Uh, uh, because I can't guarantee. However, wouldn't you know it? But like I say, it doesn't sound like my appointment can be arranged till after the 10th, if not today. And I don't know if this is something I'd be curious about. And I'm just going to type it in the comments because I'll be past this topic in a moment. The thing is I am available. This is the kicker. So I don't know if I said yet that I called to see if the bus that just goes within our neighborhood and actually picks you up where you want it and drops you off where you want it. Essentially, I was going to see if they're still available when I realized, that transit's going through these changes, and I just noticed that this is asking to be plugged in, so it will. And this is not plugged in, but it's fine. Although I thought it was. Must have just pulled out. But yeah, so it does it's not a thing right now. So I've actually utilized my words and energy to say this twice because I explained it to the relative as well. I don't really want to have to stand out waiting for a bus when I could be moving and getting myself closer there and possibly even get most of the way there before the bus even came. If it's the regular one, and I don't know what its route is. It could go way out of my way, in which case I have to start earlier, be on it earlier, blah blah blah. And yeah, also we live somewhat near a school, which has just started back today. And so the area is really busy, but it's cool. I'd love to have the door open, but the dog would be noisy. Anywho, so yeah, that's kind of and welcome. You tuned in when you're meant to. Glad to have you here. Curious who we got watching, where you're watching from, how you came across this, all that stuff. If you'd like to say. Um, so that was kind of today's. Now I did get some good news. But last night I was kind of surprised that it was closer to 5 o'clock. But perhaps the guy works late. Works evenings, or he um, was just working a little late and wanted to take care of this call. Whether he'd already noticed it or was just noticed it then. Anywho, at first I thought, oh, it's going to be about G's sister, or it's going to be telemarketing or whatever. Uh, no offense, I know it's a job. And sometimes you got to do what you got to do until you do what you want to do. But you know, once you've done that, it's kind of like, I don't know. I mean, some people would still rather just not work and hope to get work before they get that kind of job or something at fast food, right? Welcome to both of you. Anywho, so last night I got a call about a gig that I've been talking about hoping to get, and it sounds like I might get it. Um, which is really great because like I don't drive, I don't like bars that much. I'm not in a band currently, so getting gigs is a little bit hard. I like to feel that we have talent. If you check out our videos, you can see that. Last night we did a couple quite musical ones, um, especially the one with me and the guitar in the live stream. And as far as like seniors' homes, well, we've done that. Um, and I'm saying this during the 13 mark, but they're the ones that I love. Basically, not really sure what the issue was at the one. The other one, I think I know, but she really was not a very good communicator. She really didn't say. Um, um, Kind of didn't feel like she needed to say. It would have been nice of her, but it's the kind of person that she was, which didn't seem like the kind of person who should be a recreation facilitator. She was very kind of serious and not very friendly seeming. I mean, not super mean, but not really friendly either. Went from, I think, all three of you here. Happy to have you here. Welcome. Curious where you're watching from. Um, Anywho, so and that one place that I was just alluding to is very, very nearby, which is the sad part because it's so accessible, um, but not an option. And all three of you left. I honestly think it's because a while ago somebody that we know who's into puppetry uh, um, had two puppets that didn't, that I guess she'd made or whatever, and she hadn't given them to anyone else yet or something like that. It sounded like, and so we had them, and we did a couple videos, and I think we did one gig, but it wasn't super close to home. Um, and then we did this one, and we actually sent a video, which I honestly, because we were asked to, people don't just believe that you have talent; they wanna see it before they hire you, right? So basically we'd done a little short little video. We maybe even had it posted on here or possibly Facebook. And if it was there, maybe she or either way, maybe it was that she doesn't like. But with this particular person, I don't think it would have taken much. So basically, and I hate to say it in the same video, but whatever. Um, the other person that I'm going to be referring to is very much not like she is. So, you know, there's a couple details I could say, but I don't feel certain enough about saying them, so I won't. But basically, so we'd sent her this video. We may have ran through it 2 or 3 times, but still, you know, keeping our place on the script, and G especially when he got this puppet on his hand, he became even more playful and silly than he usually is, and so we weren't sticking to the script, and I guess I kind of saw that might be the case, so it didn't really throw me off that much. So although our audition video may not have been too bad, anywho, uh, and when we actually got there wasn't that many people we were performing for. They all seemed to like it. I don't know if it may have been that we were looking through the bookshelves, but that's because one of the residents had told us that they had a bunch of music books over there or something like that. So we were looking through those. Anybody who was paying attention well enough, yes, maybe their hearing wasn't great, but would have realized that. And would have also realized that one of the residents was kind of suggesting it. And she certainly wasn't around. She did peek in a couple times. The recreation lady, she did peek in a couple times, and it's entirely true, possible that we may not have been in our super best moments at those 2 brief times. We're human. We don't perform with the puppets very often, and now, I mean, first of all, the opportunities, don't come around very often. Second of all, I get dry hands and warm hands pretty quickly. I'm not a ventriloquist. It's which may have been more expected, and I mean, I was surprised she was actually open to it. Like I say, we were talking about for elderly people, not kids, but some of them are kids at heart, or it might be nostalgic for them because puppets have honestly been around for quite a long time. I wish I could think of like old examples of such. Um, well, Sesame Street, but like, let me just quickly look here. Puppetry they would have been in 40s and 50s. Howdy Doody. I forgot that was puppetry. Anyway, it looks like it may have existed. So yeah, it went a little off script, and I think that must have been the reason. I've had to guess because she hasn't said, you know. So if she sees this and she's watching, because she's like, this is sounding really familiar. What's he going to be saying? What's he going to be saying? I had to get it off my chest. It does annoy me because it's so close. It is a reminder of that something that's added to making it harder to get gigs, even though it shouldn't have. You know, um, I've mostly gotten past it, but when I think about it, it bugs me. It does. So, and I think that she should learn, or people in similar positions, or that maybe have been through something like this, how important communication is, how important friendliness is. Some people think that if they're being very direct, they're not beating around the bush, that they are actually communicating well, and and if they feel that they're a nice person, then they won't think of themselves as coming across any other way. And I don't know what happened after that. I don't know if she just kind of, because I don't know if she thought, yeah, I could have handled that better, but done is done, or but she could have, or I've got things to do now. Um, I'm just going to leave it at that. I don't want to encourage it further. That kind of thing is probably the way that she seems to have thought, rather than I should apologize for my rudeness and my abruptness. You know, maybe he should be given a reason so that he can learn to improve. I don't even remember if I said it that way at the time. If I said, so I can know, I just said, "Can I ask why?" And she says, "Actually, I'm being really direct and kind." And I says, "A little vague," and she says, "And I don't have to explain." You know. So, anywho, um, people like that can be pretty frustrating, right? And those could be the flashes at the top. Like I don't have to say why I don't want. But you know what? Part of me would like to know, and part of me wouldn't, because I know that I'm doing my best. That's the thing. So, um, and I'm gonna put here also. Uh, um, so back to the call I got last night. Um, and I would have done music if, I mean, I did a very focused music one the other day. Lots of people were there, although, like I say, afterwards it said there was only three. So I don't know if it was the same people coming back or not. I think at one point in time there was, or am I thinking of another recent video? I think at one point in time that there was at least four, three for sure, but I'm pretty sure four. Um, like I need the live audience too. I mean, any performer truly does. And this is, the capacity at this venue is 100, 150, I think. So that's pretty good. Um, yeah. And unfortunately, the relative I could get away from is going to be out of town, but I think I'll manage to bike even with that stand. I'm actually hoping that they might have some equipment, but if they have speakers, what I should find out is if they might have a podium that they're going to be setting up. Because if they have a podium, I could probably use that for the music. I would like the option to sit, but I'm probably not going to be playing more than 5 or 6 songs. So, and then I can hopefully find a seat. It would be nice to have a seat offered to me other than my bike for before or afterwards. And if it's really busy, like I don't know how early I want to get there, I'd have to find out what time I'd have to be there. Uh, yes, I know they make folding chairs. We've got one actually, but I'd also have the guitar on my back and a backpack on my front, perhaps. So, I mean, you can only bike with so much. Some people might suggest a trailer. We don't have one right now. What I could maybe do is post in a neighborhood group that I'm in and see if anybody might be willing to lend me a bike trailer. Since nobody's here right now, I'm going to do that because that then I could bring my that would make things so easy. I don't know why suddenly it's giving me a purple option. I'm not saying much, so bike trailer or I don't want to be too specific in case this person who's giving me the gig lives try and get this lined up. So yeah, so basically, so anyway, he called though last night, and he says, I could tell pretty quickly that he sounded like a nice guy, and he says, uh, um, I can't remember, after he kind of introduced himself, who kind of jumped into the offer first. Chapstick if you're curious, chapstick if you're not. But he says that they have some speakers at the event. They were actually hoping to have some entertainment, but it was getting kind of close to the date. It's about a week, and they hadn't found anything yet, which is slightly surprising to me. But hey, works for me. Especially like I say, as someone who deserves to get the occasional gig, because I'm an entertainer and talented. I mean, I'm only saying, I'm speaking with a bit of confidence, not an ego. And I've been musical all my life. I told him that, but I think it was after he asked if I could send him a couple of videos, and I said that most of my videos are not just music; they're talking as well. Um, these days, but that I could see what I could do. And I thought I was going to have to go look in and try and find. I knew that there was a couple that were mostly music, but then I just did one last night. Um, and so basically, great, did. Um, and if I'd done it right away, it may have sent, but I thought I might want to send another link, and I wanted to ask, I'm pretty sure that there'd be food. I don't know if it's just going to be a barbecue, but I wanted to ask if there was going to be payment. I didn't really want to ask for a ride, and I don't think I need to. Um, um, I know I thought like well, it goes around, but I'm not. Anywho, can I edit my post actually? Because I could see that. Oh, good, it kept the background too. But now it's going to take the background because it's gotten a little too long at like practically 3 lines. Um, I put a question in the comments. Welcome. I haven't been rolling super long. Glad to have you here. I have another question. When one was to if one is to borrow something from a stranger, because on the account I currently use, I can view my other one, my other social media, but on the account I currently use, I don't have a huge circle. Although the other person in the house, we can maybe post this under his as well, and see where that if that's helpful. And if it, whoops, what is this? I accidentally posted a link. Um, but there's also a neighborhood group that I'm going to post this to, and what I'm so I need to borrow something, and it's something that might trigger in people's minds, people that sometimes ride around on bikes and steal things out of yards and going through bins. I mean, that's stuff that's out for garbage and recycling anyway. I mean, um, I think people will be more willing to help if I put that. Um, and I think he'd say sure because you know what, it make it easier. And via he's and really, really happy that I've gotten the gig. And I don't this time it's wanting to say pink. Um, it's not far. I don't think I need to ask because I figured you'd be okay with it. If not, I can delete it. But yeah. So, anywho, hopefully that'll help. I could do it anyway, but the fact that I wouldn't mind having a chair, and that being said, it's a place that I'm not even sure. I haven't been to it that much. It's not that far, but I still haven't been to it that much. I'm not even sure if they have picnic tables. And if they don't, then people's only options will be to bring their own chairs or stand. And I'm not going to sit in somebody else's chair that I don't know or lap. And I might only stay long enough to do the gig and eat. I don't know. But the point of the matter is I think I likely have the gig. Um, it is true that I am having a bit of a difficulty sending the message to him. So I called and I left a voicemail. Welcome, glad to have you both here. Feel free to say hi in the chat, and we can have a bit of a conversation. If you have a song request, feel free to give it. I've got a little bit of time still before I have to head out. So I left him a message. He didn't have a lot of space in his voicemail thing. So the first time after I gave the intro as to who I was and why I was doing it this way, so I had to call again. Luckily, I did both before 8:30. It would have been fine if I'd reached him in person, to be honest. Then I could give him a bit more of a preview, to be honest. But part of me just wanted to take care of it, and it's not that I'm bad with the social stuff, but sometimes it's easier just to reach somebody's voicemail. Can't remember who it was that I was talking about with my friend Michelle in that way. I don't think it was about this. What would it have been about? Oh, right. But she ended up answering, and then, and I don't know. Maybe I shot myself in the foot with that one. Maybe we could talk about that one. Then, if there's anything you need support about or a song you'd like to hear. But anyway, so I called back. I left a voicemail with the video playing. The guitar, it is true, doesn't record greatly because it's an old guitar and old strings, and not that old laptop, but and I did mention that in the first call. I said, just that. So, and I might still try and send the link, but I'm also hoping that they're really going to want to have entertainment. I had said that a place in my hometown that did a similar event got a choir, but it was nice to have something nearby. I didn't get into the bar thing, I don't think, but I don't really need to. I did happen to say that I've been in a bit of a rut. Again, I probably didn't need to. It sounds like he was quite curious to have us, but I did state I've been in a bit of a rut. It's nice to have this opportunity, do something for this cause. So, and some of the songs I played last night are the ones that I plan to do. So, yeah, I'm thinking he'll call back either way. I mean, he has to give me an answer. Uh, and it's interesting. I don't know if I would say I jinxed it or not, but on the phone, and I'm not even sure exactly why in the moment why I did it. He'd given me his email address. I said, I should probably take your number just in case I have any issues with email. It's mostly working, but I kind of am. May have been slightly in the back of my mind that I kind of was the other day a little bit too, but usually it's fine, including lately. Anywho, so yeah, so hopefully that'll go smoothly. And yeah, I don't know what our dog's making noise about. Nobody's currently watching. I am finding this light to be, at least to give this, but like they have a nice big window. they have a couple other lights, and then they have a giant one right there, and then they have the ones that they wear. It's like, but the sunglasses seem to do the trick, and sometimes you have your eyes closed, so when they're doing their dentistry stuff. Which, so I'd like to find. Part of me would love to find videos like aerial views of this, and part of me thinks no, it's just gonna be gross. But I'm sure that we're all curious, if we don't do that kind of work, what they're actually doing in there, when we're tilted back. Yeah, so hopefully today goes smoothly. Hopefully that gig goes well. And I don't know if I have anything else to say. So I might just wrap up. However, we do have somebody here, so if there's anything that you'd like to talk about, I welcome you to say so in the chat. I've been rambling for 36 minutes. If you have a song request and you left. So I think I will too, because I don't need to, every now and then, whether the person's familiar with the channel or not, they might say, they might start a lovely chat. But, I mean, and if someone wants to stick around and watch for a while, I truly do believe, I don't really need to say it because it says it in the comment, but in case people don't read the comment for whatever reason, it's true. Illiteracy is a real thing. It is true, which is kind of one reason why YouTube is so nice. Is that, well, you don't have to be literate. I mean, it helps. It certainly helps. You might miss important stuff if you are, if you have dyslexia or whatever. But yeah, it's otherwise very largely a video platform, so it's great that way. But yeah, basically, the one last night was a great example of. I mean, and then some people, they are in the chat and they're having a great time chatting with me. Whether I mention it or not, don't forget to like. Sometimes no likes appear, and I know that the person's liking it because they like me, they like chatting with me, and that's cool and all. But again, if people don't see or can't process the chat for whatever reason, or it doesn't show, then they, it's unfortunate. I think that people should be operating under the it's just a bit chilly, under the should be on YouTube deciding what they like for themselves, not to do with the numbers and statistics. But and then like last night, like I say, that I was pretty well focused on just doing music, partly because of it being sort of an audition for this gig, and also I had the song ideas, and it was kind of late. I didn't have a ton of time, so I just was. And some people were sticking around, even the kind of slow songs. I mean, they have their time and place too, right? Some people were sticking around. They weren't saying much, and no likes appeared. And then also, it said that there was 2 or 3 views right afterwards when I went to the wrap-up screen or whatever. Meanwhile, there was at least throughout the duration indication 6 or 7 different times. Some of those may have been the same person coming back. They may have been, but I still didn't think that was accurate either. So I'm just saying, that's another reason we can't go by the numbers. And then like this one, it's had some people tune in. They may have actually been kind of curious or interested or wanted to say something, but they were trying to keep up with what I was saying, or they didn't know what to say, or their device died, or something came up. And people can say, well, you can tell yourself whatever you want, but may not be true. But it may be, You can tell yourself you can, if you chose to. I don't know why you would, but choose to tell yourself that no, it was probably those. But neither of us knows really. One of my videos that did fairly decently, I feel, um, a couple of nights ago, saying that whole statement about nobody knows, about this and that. And like as far as like God, like I certainly have a hard time holding faith in God sometimes, but I know that He's real because I truly believe that there is a Creator. And also, what I shared that night, and sometimes share other times, um, uh, pretty much tells me that um, angels tell me that they've seen Him. Including sometimes ones that didn't necessarily believe or didn't know if they believed on Earth. So, and actually, that brings up behind the whole thing of like we shouldn't really be going at people that um, don't believe, because they can be a very good person doing very great things, or at least wanting to, trying to, in their life. Um, and they're not necessarily doing it for a reward, such as some could say, a reward of a promise to heaven. And that's actually very admirable. The other thing is that there are really a lot of reasons that make sense, whether it's personal experiences, um, when you think about how big the world is and things that go on in it. There's a lot of reasons that make sense for someone not to believe, and it's one of those things that for a lot of people kind of fluctuates through their life. Um, even fairly strongless religious people have probably been through times where they weren't. I mean, if you're raised with it, that's one thing, but also most of us, a lot of us, it doesn't even matter what kind of learner you are or whatever, are really needing like the tangible, the physical. I can see, I can hear them. And with God, it's fairly easy not to feel like you have those. This is not meant to be a religious video for the person that just tuned in. Welcome. I also talked a little bit about statistics and how they're not always accurate, and we can make our own choices and this and that. So I'm happy to have you here. I was thinking of wrapping up soon, but I got a bit of time. If you have a song request, a topic request, it's a little bit early for Maxi to be rolling yet because he's pretty consistent. That's another question I have. I put one in the comments. I figured out the other one. And when you watch podcasts, if you know that somebody is fairly consistently posting at the same time every day or a certain day every week, does that make any difference to you? That's something I'm curious about. The part of me thinks, yeah, because you can put it into your routine if you're able to, or your watch later, routine. Um, and part of me thinks some people probably couldn't commit to that because their schedule is just too hectic and possibly a little bit, hard to predict. But anywho, if anybody is commenting, I don't think you are. They aren't showing up. I have a couple things there. I don't know whether to put super chat on, but live chat says all messages, which should include super chat. And this isn't really one that needs to really be monetized. I think I did set it as that. It doesn't really need to be, unless of course you have something that you would like some life advice about, and I give it to you, or I play a couple of your song requests and you like it enough that you want to donate. I still don't know if we have this channel set up at the best way to receive it, but it is set up to receive such. It's not all about that, but who would argue about money, right? I mean, especially with one income, and at times that doesn't even feel like it's going to remain certain. I have started to get some disability checks. I talked about disability a bit in other videos, and both of you left, but there can be big delays. I don't know if that was printed and sent to me, but they said I actually might supposed to be receiving more. but they tried to direct first, so I don't know, blah, blah. I have to call about that, but I figured I'll do that tomorrow because I have this other plan today, but I can do that tomorrow. So yeah, I don't know if the person that just tuned in was here a few minutes ago. I was talking about something. Oh, right. Yeah, so basically, you know, and I think it's very understandable. Put yourself in somebody else's shoes. You might, you might, you might be a very, very religious person who does not have those struggles. But just for a moment, imagine how easy it would be if you weren't as religious to have those struggles. Find some empathy and understanding, and hopefully it would make sense to you. Um, hoping that you're a kind and good person, you'd be able to do that. Um, there was something that I had said within this that kind of got me on that tangent, but I guess I do have a few things I'd like to do otherwise online before I likely head out. But of course, right as I'm about to wrap up, and the person left. And with that kind of example, it could be, oh, okay, this is just finishing up. I'll maybe come back to it later, or I guess I've missed it. But you know what? People shouldn't assume because I would have. And if you've seen the channel before, you probably would realize that for the most part, I am actually able to be a bit flexible and then cater to your desires of songs, pretty much able to, or topics, um, or needs for support. Um, that guy seemed really nice. He really should have. Maybe he does work on the other line too. Um, I am actually thinking of doing a song. I don't think I'd do for the event, but I was reminded of the other day. It's in one of the books. I could also look it up. As long as the person viewing, whether you give an anonymous like or put a comment, I'd appreciate it. Wouldn't mind the fact that it's it's like a guy singing a woman's song. Whoop de do, right? But the person laughed. You know, it's by someone who's indigenous. Sometimes you can't tell. There are some very white people that have that in their genetic background. I I guess if I was to say, I won't say whether I do or don't. Most people that do, there is stereotypes, of course, but most people that do would probably be pretty honest about it. So if I didn't say, then that would probably mean I don't or I'm not. But it's still a very nice song. I'm also very surprised, I must say, the person who originally does the song has been in the media lately, as apparently she always came across as indigenous of a certain type, or indigenous in background. Some of the tribes, they're very, just like a religion or whatever, they're very committed to the type of, like, to whether they're um, Anishinaabe or whether they're um, Cherokee or whatever. So it may have just been that she was saying that she was one that she wasn't, although she's still indigenous. I was reminded the other day too about how indigenous actually started with the Aboriginals in Australia. Well, I don't know if it started, but there's definitely roots um, from that. Um, I'm just saying it because I was reminded of this the other day. I can't even remember how actually, but she very clearly seems to be. Unless she's Mexican or something, but no, she very clearly seems to be. So I don't know what I didn't never read the articles or whatever. I don't know what all the hoopla is about because yeah. And if she isn't, we could probably understand why she thought she was. You know, who am I talking about? If you're wondering, I know it's kind of I've St. Mary. I think of that because I was talking to someone the other day who shared a similar first name, and it was also kind of ironic because of the Ray thing with St. Marie. Yeah, my grandmother Marie. I have a song about my 5 grandmothers on here. Check that out if you like. But I think I am going to wrap up because you know what? Most people aren't sticking around super long with this one for whatever reason. I'm kind of tired. At the moment, I am kind of warm, so I actually would kind of be okay walking to the thing. Um, but you know, I've said the things I've wanted to say, and then some. And nobody else in this particular video is saying anything during, so I don't really see a whole lot of point in continuing to roll. You know, it's always the hope that there's a bit of chat during the live stream, and sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't. You know, and when there isn't, it's not exactly motivating to continue a particular live stream. But then part of me thinks if I stay just 5 or 10 minutes more, though, then you know maybe I'll roll for another hour because somebody will come in and be enjoyable to chat with and all that good stuff. But the waiting, the waiting and the not knowing is also kind of, you know, not that enjoyable. And I have other things I'd like to do, even though I don't have to do them necessarily. I've done the 2 things that I have to do. Now I have things to do still connected to those things, but not quite yet. So yeah, okay, I'm gonna wrap this up then. Take care. Have a good day. Good evening. Bye for now.